What's going on there, YouTube? Welcome back to another comic book video. Okay, so we're going to continue our coverage over Batman Knightfall, but now we have to jump over to some tie-ins. We're going to cover a three-part story arc that actually took place right in the middle of Batman Knightfall over in Shadow of the Bat in issues number 16, 17, and 18. This three-part story arc was actually called God of Fear. It's all about the Scarecrow, but technically this is the first adventure of Jean Paul Vally being Batman after Bruce Wayne got his back broken by Bane. And so of course Jean Paul Vally is trying to pick up where Bruce Wayne left off at. But this three-part story arc also does a great job in showing us that Jean Paul Vally is not completely ready to be Batman. And you see what I mean as we go through today's video. And so getting into the opening pages for today's video, we actually pick up in Gotham University, where we do pick up with a group of students hearing about a new experiment going on at their campus. Now, if they're able to participate in this experiment, they'll get $50. Now, some of the kids, they are automatically down with the idea of participating in this experiment, but one kid does not want to, and that would be Harold. Now, Harold is going to be somewhat important in this three-part story arc, and so he wants to just leave and go home and study. But then two bullies say, no, you're going to go because you need to know how to have fun. Now, honestly, they don't care if this kid has fun. They're just being bullies trying to force him to take part of this experiment. Now, before we are able to move on a tad bit farther with this story, I do want to establish that for Jonathan Crane, aka the Scarecrow, the idea of him going back to a university makes a lot of sense. And the reason why, because it does tie back to his actual origin when he was a professor. Now, when all the kids do show up for this experiment, they realize that they're sooner or later going to put on some helmets. They're going to take their minds and bodies into a virtual reality. Now, when it comes to Jonathan Crane, he'll be the man in charge of this experiment. But of course, he's going by a different name because everyone in Gotham knows that Jonathan Crane is Scarecrow. And so he's going by the name Professor Rance. And so you do have all the kids sit down and they do get ready to, well, take part of this experiment. But now we have to jump over to Jean Paul Vally. Now, this is the reason why I say we're going to see that Jean Paul Vally might not be ready to be Batman. And here is the reason why. So Bruce Wayne had a rule when it came to Wayne Manor to not wear your costume outside the Batcave when you're back at home. Only in the Batcave where you should be wearing your Batman, Robin, or whatever outfit you wear in the Bat family. But once you're up in the upper level in Wayne Manor, you're back in your regular clothes. Well, Jean Paul Vally does not care at all. This man is standing outside on the balcony as Batman. And Tim says, hey, whoa, bro, listen, Bruce had a rule, no costumes up here. But for Jean Paul Vally, he does not care. He said, listen, as we all know right now, Bruce Wayne is no longer Batman. I am now Batman, which means I do things my way. And by the way, Robin, I don't need your help tonight when it comes to taking up different bad guys in Gotham City. And so you have Jean Paul Vally just walk away like that. And Tim is now very concerned in the idea of Jean Paul being the Batman. But now we have to jump over to another character that is going to play a role in this actual story, and that will be Lonnie Mackin. Now, Lonnie Mackin is better known as Anarchy. Now, we do see him breaking out of juvenile detention because, well, this kid just wants to get back out there and cause chaos in Gotham, but in a different kind of way. Because remember, when it comes to Anarchy, he's really more the idea that the people are not actually free, that the government is controlling them in all kinds of ways. And so his goal is to bring down the government of Gotham and possibly the rest of the country so that people can actually be free. Either way, this young man has just broken out and he's now also on the loose alongside with Scarecrow. Now, getting back over to Scarecrow, we actually do see him arrive at this classroom to begin his experiment. Now, remember, he's going by a different name, calling himself Professor Rance. Now, when he does arrive, he can tell that most of the people in the room are very excited about the idea of being able to participate in this experiment, except for one, and that would be Harold. Now, while you have everyone else putting on their helmets to go into his virtual reality, Harold does not. And the reason why? Because he recognized Scarecrow. He's all like, your name is not Professor Rance, you're Jonathan Crane. You're the Scarecrow. And the reason why I know who you are because you're the man who killed my father. Now that is going to be somewhat important for the rest of this book. Either way, you have Scarecrow use a nice dose of fear toxin to make Harold fall in line and put on the helmet. Now, when it comes to the assistant teacher for this classroom, Miss Stopes, she begins to freak out as well, like, wait a second, he just called you the Scarecrow. Is that true? And he says, no, it's not true. But he also hits her with some fear toxin as well. And then puts a helmet on her so her mind will go into a virtual reality as well. Now, we do learn a tad bit about what's exactly happening to the people who are in that virtual reality. You see, what the Scarecrow is doing is that every single person is right now seeing their worst fears over and over again as a way to break their minds down so that sooner or later he will be able to take over their minds. So for example, for Harold, the young boy who said the Scarecrow had killed his father, well, right now his worst fear is seeing the Scarecrow killing his father again. And so this man is going to relive that worst moment of his life over and over again as a way to have his mind be broken by the Scarecrow. Now, what Scarecrow is actually doing when it comes to all these different people having to relive their worst fears over and over again, he does appear in the virtual reality as some kind of savior, saying, listen, I can save you from all these nightmares that you are currently experiencing. But if I do that, you have to obey me. It's a way for the Scarecrow to hypnotize people, to make them fall in line, saying, hey, listen, right now you're seeing your worst fears. If you don't want to see that, you have to obey me, and I'll make sure you'll never see those fears ever again. And just like that, these people are under his control. Now for Scarecrow, he wants to make sure that everyone is under his control. And so he tells one of the students to grab a gun and shoot his friend right in the head. And bam, just like that, the kid does it. And so it really shows that Scarecrow experiment actually works, that he now has a small size army under his control for his big plan to come for Gotham down the road. Now I want to jump back over to Anarchy, and here is the reason why. So you have Anarchy right now watching Batman take out another gang. Now while doing that, Anarchy says, I just realized something. Batman has to go. And the reason why? Because Batman is the reason why Gotham the way it is right now. Because with Batman going around saying that Gotham is his, that he is the protector of Gotham, now all these different supervillains are trying to challenge him as a way to take Gotham away from him. He is the reason why we have the Joker, Two-Face, the Riddler, Bane right now, Mr. Freeze, and the list goes on. And so for Anarchy, he believes if he's able to get rid of Batman, then most likely all the bad guys will go away as well. And so now his goal is to kill off the Bat. Now, getting back over to Scarecrow, you have Scarecrow right now telling us that his big plan is not done just yet when it comes to attacking Gotham. But he does explain why he's trying to attack Gotham this time. Because when it comes to Scarecrow, this man loves to read books, right? Knowledge is power. But he realized that in all the different cultures out there, there is no god of fear. And so for Scarecrow, he believes that he should be the one to take up that mantle to become the god of fear. And so for Scarecrow, he says, listen, what I am going to do is spread my fear toxin across Gotham City, because right now all I have is a small classroom size of people to actually praise me. I need more people if I want to become a god in the world. And so for that, I need to go ahead and bring Gotham to its knees. And so all the kids earlier that he was able to take over their minds, they're now dressed like him. And so now we're going to see a Scarecrow army go out there to hopefully build up the army of Scarecrow so that he'll become the god of fear. Now, as we dive into the second chapter, we see Scarecrow telling his people to go their separate ways to different locations across Gotham City to begin his plan. Now, before we actually dive into what each person is going to do, you have Scarecrow say, wait a second, Harold, you're not going anywhere at all, because earlier you told me that I killed your father, but I don't remember you. Now, once he gets a good look at Harold, he's all like, wait a second, I do remember you. I did kill your father. Your father was the first person I ever killed. Like, that right there is a huge achievement for me. But your father did stand in my way. Matter of fact, he had something I wanted from him. And I'm pretty sure when he died, you were the one to inherit all his stuff. So I'm hoping you had the things I actually wanted from him in the past. Now, getting back over to Jean Paul Vally, we actually do see him beating down on some thugs. Now, this is another example of the idea that maybe Jean Paul Vally is not properly ready to be Batman. And here's the reason why. So, once he's done beating down on these thugs, he tells them, if I see you in the streets in the next month, even if you're not doing anything at all, I am going to beat you down even worse than I did right here at this moment. So if I was you, I would get the heck out of here and stay away from Gotham City. And it really shows that this is Jean Paul Vally just being more brutal than Batman was in the past. But at the same time, what if his ways is actually the answer to make sure that Gotham is protected? But now we have to jump over to Harvey Bullock and Renee Montoya, two officers who work for the GCPD. Now, while they're at Gotham University, they're beginning to question the dean like, hey, you guys should have done a full-on background check on this man before you allowed him to be on your campus. Now, the dean says it's not my job. It was someone else's job. That was Miss Stokes' job to do the background check. But as we saw earlier, she was also hit with fear toxin, and now she's also part of Scarecrow's army. Now, you also have the dean say, hey, Scarecrow left a tape behind, but not for you guys, for Batman. Now, Harvey Bullock does not want to wait at all when it comes to Batman to watch this tape, and so he begins to play it. Now, no one knows that Jean Paul Vally Batman is actually in the room watching the tape with them. Now, on this tape is Scarecrow saying, hey, my plan is not done yet. Like, by the end of the night, millions of people in Gotham City are going to be hit with my fear toxin. Sooner or later, I'll become their god because I will be the only person who can save them from their worst fears. I'll become the god of fear. Now, for our heroes, Batman really, he's kind of like, great. My first night out as Batman, and now I gotta find Scarecrow before this man is able to bring Gotham to its knees. Now, I want to jump back over to anarchy, and here's the reason why. So we get another example of the idea of anarchy saying Gotham City is horrible because of Batman, because you have anarchy going after a gang called the Anti-Bat Gang. Now, the Anti-Bat Gang is just going against everything that Batman stands for, but they're also hurting innocent people as well. Now, for anarchy, that right there is not okay. Innocent people should not be hurt at all. But at the same time, he blames Batman for this gang. He's all like, look, because Batman's here in Gotham City and he claimed to be the sworn protector of this city, now you have all these gangs who go against what he stands for. And now innocent people are getting hurt. And so this gives anarchy another reason why to kill off Batman. But now I'm going to jump back over to Scarecrow. Now, earlier, you had Scarecrow tell us like, hey, I killed your father because he had something I wanted. But technically, there's a tad bit more to that story. Now, you do have Scarecrow tell Harold, before I'm able to tell you why I exactly killed off your father, let me go ahead and give you my full origin story. So we do learn that Jonathan Crane loved the idea of causing fear into other people and other things as well. But also, he loved to read. And so because those two things right there combined, he said, you know what? I'll become a professor in psychology. Now, while doing that, he had different people at the university begin to talk bad about him because the way he acted and the way he looked. Matter of fact, most of the staff said he looked like a scarecrow. And so because of that, he said, you know what? I'll become a villain, but the scarecrow will be my symbol. Now, when it came to Harold's father, he said, your father has some books that I wanted, but also your father was suing my business partner, and I told your father to drop the case, but your dad did not want to do that. And so I had to shoot him. And so now I finally have the books I wanted, but also your dad got out of my way when it came to that case with him trying to sue my partner. Now, we do learn that when it comes to Scarecrow, he told each member of his army to go to different venues across Gotham City, but wait until the right volume of people are inside those venues. Once the entire building is full, go ahead and release your pouch that's holding fear toxin, because then everyone in your building is going to be affected by my fear toxin. And so once you have the clock hit 10, well, hey, it begins. Everybody in those buildings are now being affected by fear toxin. Now, Batman, he's trying his best to help out what he can, but the problem is there's too many people who are infected. Now, really, this is just a small portion of Gotham right now being affected. We are not talking about the idea of the entire city. And so if Jean Paul Vally is right now struggling with just a small portion of people being affected, what's going to happen when the entire city is infected? Now, you also have Anarchy trying to help out as well. And really, he believes that he found the Scarecrow. But the problem is, when he goes after that person, he comes to find out, no, it's not the Scarecrow. It's just one of his members pretending to be him. And so now Batman and Anarchy had the same goal. They have to stop Scarecrow. But for Anarchy, it's Scarecrow and the Batman. And so as we dive into the opening pages of the final chapter, we actually do pick up with Scarecrow arriving at one of the buildings of the GCPD. Now, when he does walk in, he says, hey, you know what? This is me turning myself in. Now, the police, they kind of know like, that's too hard to believe because you're the Scarecrow, like you're one of Batman's main bad guys. There's no way you'll give up this easily. And they're right, because on the back of his belt, he has more pouches or containers that's holding fear toxin. And of course, they release inside the building. And so now more and more people are being affected by the fear toxin. Now, we also kind of find out that this is actually one of the members of Scarecrow's army going into the building. This is not the real Scarecrow at all. Now, getting back over to Jean Paul Vally, we actually see him going to different locations across Gotham City to find different devices that were left behind by the Scarecrow. These devices are being used to set up a hologram that's playing a message to tell Gotham by the end of the night, the entire city is going to be hit with the fear toxin. And so, of course, people are now panicking across Gotham City. And so this is Jean Paul Vally saying, you know what? I'm trying my best to find all those different devices so that the hologram will stop playing that message. Now, for Jean Paul Vally, his main focus is to go after Bane. But he says, you know what? One, I promised Bruce I would not go after Bane. And two, the main goal right now is Scarecrow. Bane is not doing anything big at the moment to catch my attention. Now we jump over to Scarecrow. Now this man is very upset about the fact that different news channels out there are now calling him crazy, calling him a maniac. And even though you have more and more people beginning to be affected by the fear toxin, he was actually hoping that by this point most of Gotham would look at him as the god of fear and begin to praise him, begin to listen to him. But instead, they're calling him a maniac. And so he is very upset about that fact right there. Now, he is complaining to Harold. And the thing is, Harold has no choice but to go ahead and listen because he's still under the Scarecrow's control. Like, yes, he's able to think for himself, but his body and his mind technically is under the control of Scarecrow. But now we have to jump over to Jim Gordon. Now this is Jim getting a call from Scarecrow. And the Scarecrow is saying, hey Jim, listen, so I'm going to need you to tell everyone in Gotham City to begin to praise me like the god I truly am, the god of fear. Now for Jim, he's kind of like, hold up, you want me, the police commissioner, to find a way to make everyone praise you like you're some kind of god. And for Scarecrow, he's all like, yep, I need you to do that. So get on it. Now for Jim, he's kind of wondering, how in the world am I, the police commissioner, going to pull that kind of stunt off? But for Scarecrow, it's more of just find a way and do it. Now, he does hang the call up, and you have Jim call all officers on the radio saying, hey guys, listen. The Scarecrow just called me, and he just told me that he may be in the center of the city. If he's there, he is going to release the gas there. We gotta stop him. But now we have to jump over to the real Scarecrow, where you have Scarecrow telling Harold that he lied to Jim Gordon about the idea of releasing the gas at the very center of Gotham. Instead, he is going to release the fear toxin in the water supply instead. That is a better way to actually infect the entire city. Now, Anarchy is nearby, and he sees the real Scarecrow, but he wants Batman there as well, because if Batman is there with Scarecrow, then he'll be able to take both of them out. And so Batman does arrive. Now, you have Scarecrow trying his best to fight against Batman, but of course, Batman is easily winning. But why you have the two characters fighting against each other, well, that is when you have Anarchy throw a net over them both, and then the net begins to shock them as a way to hopefully knock them out. Now you do have Anarchy tell Batman, like, this is all your fault. Like, you are the reason why Gotham the way it is. It's your fault that this city is completely falling apart. Now, while you have Anarchy telling Batman that, you have Scarecrow tell Harold, hey, I'm gonna need you to go ahead and remove his mask. He's talking about Anarchy. And the reason why, because with his mask being gone, the gas is just close enough, it will actually affect Anarchy. And just like that, with the mask gone, he is now seeing his worst fears. Now, Batman is as well, but Batman is able to overcome his worst fears. And the reason why? Because of Saint Dumas. Thanks to Jean Paul Vally's father and Saint Dumas' training, he was able to overcome the fears of what he's being shown with the fear toxin. And so because of that, he was able to beat down on Scarecrow and also be able to take down Anarchy as well. Now you have Anarchy one more time tell Batman, like, this is still your fault. Like, you're the reason why Gotham is falling apart. But you have Jean Paul Vally say, stay out of my way. If I see you again, there's going to be some more trouble. And Batman leaves. And so that ends today's story. And this is the end of today's video. So guys, please, if you did like today's video, please leave me a like down below and subscribe. Also, if you have any suggestions on books I should read, well, please let me know in the comments below, because you never know, your suggestion could be a future video down the road. But guys, see y'all next time. Later.